meeting to order, and we'll start with the pledge to the flag.
We can't.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Here?
Here. Here. Here.
Here. Here. Here.
All right. Correspondence. We do have a couple items that came in via email that we need to add here. One is from Jerry Mitkowski on the state of the lake, and one is regarding the canal at Mallow Beach. And what I'd like to do is add them both, and then when we get to additional business, let's add an item L, lake condition, to talk about both of them. So do I hear a motion to add those two items to the correspondence, receive them, and file them?
So moved. Support.
Motion Duff, second Stack. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that does bring us to additions to business. I would like to add item L, lake condition, 12L to be specific.
Mr. President, do you think we could move that up a little bit forward for sake of convenience for some of the people that came here for this?
Sure, and you know what, since we are, I think, trying to buy a little time for our item 12A, why don't we move it to item 12 pre-A? I think that'll be, I think that's a good recommendation.
Is that an attaboy?
That's an attaboy.
Good.
All right.
I think that was smarter than what I was doing. Do we have any other additions to this? All right, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of item pre-A, lake condition?
So moved. Support.
Motion Duff, second Nagy. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that brings us to the first call to the public, an opportunity for citizens to address the, which you didn't like it, name and address.
Did you know that Kestel's supposed to be here today?
Tupper, 676 Wolverine Drive, Wolverine Lake, Michigan. Okay, first, the chemical treatment on the lakes, beating the heck out of the weeds, it seems to be working. My concern is that the destruction of the natural beauty of our village. Recently, we've had an incident, and it's not about my individual incident. It needs to be addressed on future things so we can take care of it. And individuals probably cut down 15 or 20 trees on a public easement, destroyed a beautiful park and for their own improvement. And if this would have happened at Clara Miller Park or anything else like that, I would hope Buford T. Justice would have chased them across the state lines. No. But the main thing is that we need to address the problem of individuals cutting down trees or destruction of public property ahead of time for their own personal benefit. Let me see. Sorry, I just want to...
Do you want me to hold it?
No. I'm a little ADD kind of guy, so. And right now, not only did they destroy probably 75% of the trees on public property, right now they have a whole bunch of dirt pushed up against the remaining trees, and anybody that knows anything about trees is once you start shoving dirt up against them, it'll kill the tree. So they took out about 75% of the trees on public property. They shoved the dirt up against the remaining trees. It's going to be a desert by the time they get done. So my recommendation is that we need to have some sort of person that makes sure that we don't destroy the natural beauty of our village by their individual things. And it's just, anytime there's something going on near the public property or anything like that, we really should look at that. Now, I don't know if it's Barney Fife, I call him, I don't know who's our department or whatever, the guy that drives around in the black car. We call him Barney Fife. But really, we need to make sure we're not cutting down trees on public property by individuals and tearing up. I've restored this grass on this easement like 3 times now, and already it's destroyed again, even though they promised it wouldn't happen. So it'll be the 4th time I have to replace the grass and mow it and water it and seed it and everything else. So I guess, what can I say? We just need to look at our public properties and not let individuals make decisions on how and why it can be destroyed. Thank you very much. That's all I
Thank you.
got to say.
All right. Anybody else first call to the
We have
public?
pictures if anybody needs any before and afters.
We'll take them. We'll take them up here.
Hi, Christy Nedrow, 515 Laguna Court. I might have some information for you guys on F1. When I was on ZBA, there's some information that came up for us on that piece of property, and checking into, my parents live over that way, checking in to see where their subdivision access site is. I found out some information about this, so I don't know if you want me to speak on it now or wait till it comes up. It's your pleasure.
Why don't we have the discussion then?
Okay,
We'll
all
call
right.
it then.
I just wanted to let you know. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else first call to the public? All right, seeing none, I will close the first call. That brings us to item 6B, candidates for office. Do we have anybody who is appearing on our ballot, either in August or November, who wishes to speak?
Mr. President, I was under the impression Representative Kesto was going to be here tonight, but he might be late, so.
If he makes it later, we'll open to him, for
Okay.
sure. This seems a good time to remind folks that we have a village council election coming up, 4 members up for re-election. I believe the filing date is July 26th. It might be the 28th, but it's either the 26th or the 28th. You have to file your petitions in Commerce Township. I believe it's 20 signatures that you need. It's pretty straightforward. And, you know, if people would like to run for council, you know, all I've ever looked for is people of goodwill who are willing to look at the facts and put the good of the village first. So I did want to mention that for both our audience and our council, many of whom I think are aware of that as well. So with that, we'll move on to item 7, approval of consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion Stack, second Duff. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 All right, thank you, council. That does bring us to item 12, 3A, lake condition. Sorry, Lynn, we were buying a little time because we weren't sure if you'd be here yet. So we've gotten a couple of things that I want to mention that we got from the correspondence, and then perhaps we can have a little bit of discussion of the lake condition overall. So, as you know, we got a letter from Jerry Mikowski a few weeks ago, very upset about the condition of the lake, especially down in Penny Lake. I've certainly talked with folks who are not pleased with the condition of the lake. I think it has improved greatly over the last couple of weeks. The simple fact is that by not being able to get our permit until mid-May, that milfoil down there got a great head start, and there was a lot more of it to kill than there would have been had we been able to go after it earlier. Sonar is a systemic herbicide, and the best way to kill one of those plants is when it's young, before it gets big. So that was a pretty big setback. I've certainly heard complaints from folks about the aerators and whether they are exacerbating or not exacerbating the situation down there. I don't think the facts are real clear on that one way or the other.
My comment on the aerators, only half have been working, too.
I think that is certainly true. And actually, the ones that, the worst of the weeds down there were in the area where the aerators weren't working this year,
Yeah.
so. I don't know that there's a lot more to add on the general condition. I mean, I think it's been improving. It's gotten much better over the last couple of weeks. We're trying to work the plan the best we can. The harvester will be able to start going down in that area now that some of the milfoil is dead. So,
Yeah, I
that's
think
all
a
good.
couple quick comments, if I might, in co-op. I should say, this is something that certainly Nathan can bring into focus also. The water management team is, or board, excuse me, has put forward a sequence of requests that have all been not only handled, but handled very well by the administrative body upstairs. They have been tracking in Excel spreadsheet form any and all complaints that have been coming in and reporting them back to the board. So we have watched that complaint level come down significantly. I think, what did we have? I think we had 18, maybe 15 people at the March meeting. At the April meeting, we were down to 4. And coming into May, we've seen less and less people because I think most people are understanding that we were late in the permitting process, late in the application, and as you've said so well, late in the ability to handle what was going on. We did have a young woman come at the last board meeting that brought a bag of wild celery in because we were afraid to see that come up again. So our limnologist is aware of that, and he has been on the lake under the contract provisions every 2 weeks. And I think, as was said by a member of the audience, we're finally getting it under control. A lot better. Yeah. And members of the water board have been on the harvester, and members of the water board have joined the limnologist in surveying, so we're really trying to keep on top of it this year.
I spoke this week to about 30 people along Wolverine Drive in the Penny Lake Arm, and the one question I asked is, what do you think of the lake? And I didn't have any complaints. So I had one person say, well, the weeds are finally going down, which we had a bad spring, but Joe can attest that that's one of the questions I asked you, how was the lake? And overall, people seem to think that there's quite a bit of improvement, although it was recent.
All right. Well, I think that's what we've got on that item. Since we did discuss, oh, go
A
ahead.
couple of comments. I've talked to some people too when I get different things, but my own personal feeling is we're doing something that we didn't want to do. We're making this lake chemical dependent. Harvesting has not been utilized like it was intended. In 2005, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, the harvester put in a total of 60 hours. It didn't cut, there was no cutting done in Penny Lake. Now, in 2016, I watched the harvester go out, and when they come back, they have maybe a pickup truck load full of weeds after cutting. There's areas of the lake that look like the face of the moon. I think we want to control the weeds, but we don't want to eliminate them. My understanding from years of council and being involved with other projects on the lake, our goal was always to remove as much vegetation as possible to reduce the increase of sediment and nutrients to the bottom of the lake. And all it seems like we're doing is every time we put chemical in and it dies, we're adding more. So, in my opinion, the aeration is a joke. It'll never catch up. What happened in the last 3 or 4 years in Penny Lake, aeration will never eliminate that much sediment that has fallen into the lake because of lack of harvesting. I've always thought that that was our goal and our intention. And if the harvester takes care of the bigger areas in the lake where it can maneuver back and forth and doesn't have to fight going in and out of places, then the chemical can be utilized along the shoreline so people have a place to get their boat in and out and swim. And that's just not happening on this lake.
All right. I don't disagree that the point of the harvesting is bulk removal of vegetation, so
But we don't do that.
I don't think we've seen as much out of that the last year or two, and I agree, I think we need more removal.
Well,
if
with a
you-
quick
if you
comment
keep-
on that, because I think we all have to remember again that the concept of integrating these tools, harvesting, herbicides, chemicals, and aeration is to find the balance of tools that does exactly what you're looking for. I think everybody on the water board and in this august body of residents want to see a well-maintained lake. But the idea of how this should operate, which is why we have a limnologist, is to bring the chemicals and the herbicides into play early, very early, as early before it starts to do what it did on Penny Lake, get it under control. If we can keep it at a small level of growth and then finally overcome it so it can't grow big, we won't need the harvester theoretically, because we won't have mass to take out. And that's how this is supposed to work.
Well, I think, John, we're always going to need the harvester to some extent. 'Cause
To some extent.
We're a eutrophic lake. We have a lot of weed growth. We have a mucky bottom. I think and we're a man-made impoundment, so there are things that we're gonna have to do to maintain, it's an artificial lake to begin with, so there are things that we need to
Sure,
do
I
to be able to
understand.
maintain
I
it.
live across from the dam, so I see it. In an area where we can't get the harvester in, by the way, we're 100% chemically herbicide controlled back there.
Yeah, and I also agree that this year's big problem was the long delay from the state, which wasn't just us, it was every lake around the
Absolutely.
state. After we're paying $1,500 for a permit that used to cost $150, or somewhere around $1,500. It may have gone up since then, specifically so that they could get rid of that roadblock. And then they sat there and let the weeds grow for 2 or 3 months in the spring. We had a lot more to do, but Eurasian milfoil, we talked about it at length over the winter. It's not really amenable to harvesting. You harvest Eurasian milfoil, you create more Eurasian milfoil. And
Correct.
it's a problem. But I do think there are areas, especially in, where we've got starry stonewort, I think we've gone after it a lot with copper sulfate lately. Copper sulfate's a really good control on it, but you'll notice whenever we hit the starry stonewort with the copper sulfate, we get algae bloom afterwards.
Yeah.
It's been pretty mild so
Absolutely.
far, but, we haven't had a bad bloom, but we get that, and that's because whenever you kill something with chemicals, you're releasing those nutrients back in the lake. Something is going to grow there. It's just the nature of it. We are blessed with fertile land. We have a lake upon it.
Well, remember that starry is like Cara, an algae and not a plant, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit more difficult to control and
Yeah.
harvest.
Yeah, but
I don't
I do-
disagree, though, it should be
Yeah.
harvested where it can.
I think we're all in general agreement conceptually that there's no one silver bullet. We need to do a variety of things. I think I tend to agree that I would like to see us harvest as aggressively as we can within the limits of what.
Yeah, it's not balanced. It's like 70-30.
Well, I get, in mild disagreement, again, we do have a harvesting map that always follows the chemical treatment map. Back to what I was saying, Nathan has worked extremely hard with the board for not only notification purposes, but to upgrade our website. So the harvesting map, reports were coming back, weren't they,
I
Nathan?
mean, he goes out every Tuesday and Thursday morning unless something else, like this Tuesday, he had court for his other job. But some days he gets a good haul, some days it's small. It's been small, the time I went out with him, it
Yeah.
was small. Other
And
times it's been large.
We have
and
to
he
go back
sees
because
it.
John was always an advocate of chemicals. He didn't want us to purchase a harvester. And-
That's not true.
And I hope that that's not the reason that the harvester is not being utilized like it should.
Well, let me correct
No,
that
I-
misstatement. I didn't want a harvester. I was questioning the size we were going after. And I
Yeah,
was doing that in the closed meetings that members of this council had.
and to the point, we need integrated treatment. We're working on integrated treatment. We've been doing it for a while. It's always a balance, and it's always what we would see. I think I do agree with Ed a little bit that I'd like to see us be, maybe a little less aggressive in some of the chemical treatments in areas that we could harvest instead.
Now, today was the fourth treatment the lakes had.
There's a what?
Today was the fourth treatment the lakes had this year.
Yep. Now, one place where I think we've been much smarter and better about the chemical treatments is that we are very specific in what we're doing. We're very specific in how we're targeting, moving to, a GPS basis and targeting them. we are putting overall, I think, probably fewer chemicals in the lake, but we're putting them more often, we're putting them in specific things to address specific areas, and I think that's a big improvement.
Yeah, I agree, we're not doing a shotgun effect.
Yeah.
Where you just
Yeah, so.
put it out there and kill whatever dies.
So that part's been effective, so, anyways, we could have a long, long discussion.
We
of
do
the lake.
every second
What-
Wednesday. Everybody's
what
welcome to come.
I really did want to do before we move on to the next lake issue that we had from correspondence is open to Jerry Mikowski, who wrote the letter originally, and just ask if she has seen improvement or is still dissatisfied with the condition of the lake.
Motion?
I'm going to call on her directly because it was her letter.
I guess my main concern are chemicals. I'm a very anti-chemical person. And I feel that there's far too many. When we ran the harvester 7 days a week from the 1st of May to the end of September, we didn't use chemicals. The lake was clear. There was Milford. There was Milford back in 1965 in this lake. So Milford is nothing new here. It's just a matter of controlling it. But the chemicals are awful. And if anybody thinks that all these gallons and gallons of chemicals that they put in and are going to the bottom of the lake and are disappearing, they are not. They're there to stay, just like DDT. They still can turn over ground and find DDT in the soil. And I'm sorry that I think the board, and you put the solar in, sonar, that was a very dangerous chemical to put in the lake. And we went through that, and we had a fish kill. That was, we had millions of dead fish, all the way, sometimes 5 feet out. They smelled it all the way in Wixom and Walled Lake. It took us weeks to get rid of all those fish. And to get rid of them, we had to dig holes in our front yard and bury them because it was impossible to pick up all these fish and take them to the road. So, you know, you're playing with nature here. And not only that, I just simply feel that someday these chemicals are going to affect the people on this lake.
Thank you, Jerry. All right,
Mr. President,
yes.
since we brought the subject about lake conditions, I'd just like to interject something here, that reading in the Water Management Board meeting, we want to keep the lake clean, and we do have the boat wash station that the DPW is monitoring it. And I know it's in the Water Board minutes to try to prevent invasive species and invasive plants from entering our lake while putting a pressure wash station down on the lake, down to replace what we have down there, to try to have people clean their boats before they bring it in, so they're not going to bring any junk from other lakes and put it in our lake to add to the conditions we have already. I think it's a step in the right direction. I didn't attend the meeting, but Scott Lewis was one who brought it up, and it was in the minutes, but I think that's a plus, and that's something I think the Water Management Board, if the DNR is going to approve us to do that, I think we need to pursue that, okay? And even talked about maybe put some kind of ordinance that somebody's going to get fined if they don't wash their boat before they bring it in the lake. We've got to keep the lake clean. That was the intention of that boat wash station we put in 3 or 4 years ago, to try to keep invasive species and plants out of our lake. And we don't want, if whatever we have in our lake, we didn't want people to take to somebody else's lake. That's why we wanted to wash it going in and coming out. I know it's been used a lot, but I think what their Water Management Board is suggesting about this high pressure boat wash station to replace what we have down there, I think is a plus, to try to help the condition that we have in lakes. We don't get any more junk in our lake.
Well, hold on a second, Joe, we're not open to the public right now.
No, I mean, I just want to make sure that the Water Management Board, and we pursue that, and I'll support it on the council if they come for some support. But I just think it's just going to add to what we're trying to do to keep the lake clean.
A quick comment on that, just so you know where we are, Pat. I've met with the director of the DNR here.
Okay.
And she is waiting for a proposal that we're, I guess, again, Nathan and I are trying to pull together from the 9 other lakes that we're trying to get in contact with, and she will carry that proposal up into Lansing.
Okay.
We're trying to get them to fund it, because we're talking
I like that.
$20,000 to $30,000 for a high-pressure hot water heater.
Okay.
I mean, a high-pressure cleaning station.
All right, thank you, John.
It is
Thank you.
not without cost, but neither are the invasive species.
Well, they're
That's
much
why
more costly, actually.
We got to keep them out of the lake.
Okay, Other item from correspondence that we wanted to talk about in terms of the lake was request from the Mallow, I think it's the Mallow Beach,
Manor Beach.
Manor Beach.
Manor Beach,
Yeah.
yeah.
The Manor Beach Homeowners Association, that we include their canal area in the treatment part of the lake. It has not traditionally been part of our treatment area because it's considered private property. I'm of two minds here. One is, it is still part of the lake. It goes up and it goes in, and we do treat other canal areas. The other is that whatever we do, certainly even if we ask them, which would be very small, it's a very small amount, doing it with what we do and doing it through our vendor would certainly be a great convenience savings for them. I don't have a recommendation here. I think we've just got it to us.
I think Mike is here, actually, the man who wrote the letter.
Oh, sure. Do I hear a motion to open to him?
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mike's not here.
Representative of the
So
association.
who do we have from the, I
Actually,
was gonna say, I didn't think I saw Mike, but if we've got a representative from the association, let me, actually, I don't think I need a motion. Let me just call on him. Come on up here, give us your name, address, and let us know.
I might say that the gentleman, and I do apologize for not remembering your name, was at our last board meeting,
Okay.
and actually at the last two board meetings, went out and met with Steve from our application company and got some preliminary cost, I believe. So, just with that background, the
We
board
do have
is,
the augmentation well back in there.
yeah.
So,
Colin Sandbatch, 2264 Woodlawn, Wolverine Lake, obviously. So yeah, I've kind of been spearheading this effort. I helped Mike compose a letter. Mike's the president of the Homeowners Association, and talking with other residents. But the letter goes into detail. But you talk about community, right? And that private area alone represents 156 residents. And then also, that private area, quote unquote, is open to the public for certain events. So when you talk about treating one canal versus another, I think that canal gets just as much utilization as any other canal on this lake. And yet, it has probably more taxpayers contributing to it than other canals. So it's kind of the short of it without getting into the details of the letter, right? But I think that's an important thing to consider here, is the fact that it is a part of this community. Even the surveys are taken all along that canal, the pump runs through it. It's on the same part of the lake. It's considered one body of water. So.
we do use, as noted, we do utilize it for the augmentation.
Yes, we do.
Right. And it's not restricted. It's not. There's no restrictions as far as who can go in that canal. There's no private property. Restrictions from that sense, where we're trying to deter people from utilizing that part of the lake.
Mr. President, are we looking for a motion tonight?
I would
will make
entertain a
one.
motion.
I will make a motion, being that our augmentation well is back there. It is a canal, it attaches to the lake, that they should be considered as part of the normal
Treatment area.
chemical weed treatment.
I'll support that.
So motion Sinkowitz, second Stack. Further discussion on the motion? Any input from the water board?
I think the water board, we actually recommended that as a homeowners association come forward in front of council, make those decisions, but I think the argument is well in favor of helping them control the weed growth that goes on back in that canal, which of course ends up back in the lake.
Yeah, I mean, it pumps
Yeah,
out,
it
so
just comes right
whatever's
back
in
in the
there is
lake,
coming out in the lake, and we should maintain
We
it.
talk about boats coming in here, we have a pond growing it and shooting it in under the augmentation well, so.
It is all attached. Further discussion? Let's get a roll call vote on this one.
Sinkowitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Maggie?
Yes.
Duck?
Yes.
Staff?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Medrow?
Yes. Yep, so I think that takes care of weed treatment issues. And before we get to item 12A, we do have one item we deferred from higher up at call to the public. So I'm going to go back on our agenda a bit and get to item 6B, candidates for office, because I do see we have Representative Clint Kesto here. So Clint, come on up.
Thank you, and good evening, gentlemen and ladies, and members of Wolverine Lake.
Clint Kesto, the state representative, in my second term in office, and again running for my third term. And just wanted to give you also a brief update. I know you guys have your meetings on Wednesdays. We are in Lansing, typically in session. We're out for summer break now. This gives me an opportunity to come up here. But I want to say one thing about the roads. We passed a road package that will be increasing incrementally through the budget. Half of it was through slight increases at the gas pump and registration. The other half was right directly from the general fund budget that will be directed now and hereforth directly to roads. And just to put it into perspective for Oakland County, this year they will have $65 million. It'll jump up to 82, 87, 93, 100, and then by 2021, 111 million. Almost double what we're putting in, and certainly a lot more than what we've put in previously. All that will be dedicated to roads. We'll see substantial resurfacing and new construction, as you already see. And just from the perspective of my district, we've had certain special projects, whether it be Green Lake Road in West Bloomfield, Walnut in West Bloomfield, up Benstein, north of here, and as well now today, Pontiac Trail. So all these specific special projects, we're getting a call into Oakland County. They have more dollars at the Road Commission, and we're able to get more done. As far as the budget, we're 6 for 6, early and on time, early June. And what does that mean? That means you all, when you get your dollars through revenue sharing or otherwise, you're able to plan ahead for your budget, whether it be this village, Commerce Township, West Bloomfield Township, any other municipality, as well as our schools. Our schools here in Walled Lake will get an increase in $60 per pupil. This year will be $14.2 billion throughout the state for education, the highest ever. Last year it was $13.9 billion, and you see a substantial increase on that end as well. We have, as far as jobs, every sector has seen an increase. There's been over 450,000 new private sector jobs. The only sector that lost jobs was government. So we're decreasing government, but the private sector is flourishing. And you notice that as well, even if you drive up M5, new construction, new homes, new families coming into the local area. So what is off kind of in the distance that we're working on? One of the major concerns is opioid abuse. I have a bill in right now to combat certain opioid abuse and be able to have insurance companies provide for opioid deterrent drugs rather than your standard and typical prescriptions that are out there. Technology today allows for having opioid deterrent drugs rather than your traditional opioids. We're going to try to work on having insurance companies have that coverage for that. I've been working with a couple schools as far as skilled trades to be able to have them right in high school or for adult ed be able to provide for skilled trades training, whether that be welding, electricians, carpenters, etc. They're not directly in our district. They're outside in the eastern part of Oakland County, in Madison Heights, but they've shown an interest. They have a population for it. These are just a few things on the horizon. And hopefully we get these things done by the end of the year, and if not, within the next session, we'll definitely be able to reintroduce any of these objectives. As far as I hear about DNR and trying to get a relationship, please feel free to contact me. I have a wonderful relationship with those folks. We've gotten them down here before. If it wasn't fruitful or as fruitful before, we'll get them back down here to make sure that they're doing their part in allowing the village of Wolverine Lake to be successful as well.
I think the issue on the permits was definitely a statewide issue, so not just us. Clint, and I don't want to interrupt you if you're still going, but as long as you're here and we're fortunate to have you, would you want to take a question or two from the audience?
Yeah, we'll take a few, sure.
Okay. Does anybody have a question or comment for Kesto?
Now, is climate change?
Well, certainly there is climate change. Well, I think that's more of a scientific question. Okay.
I think for purposes of this, we'll call that asked and answered. Anybody else from the public or from the council?
Yeah. Mr. Kesto.
Yes.
I know you've been to Malta Lakes a few times, and you've always been pleasantly received over there, and for the work that you've done the last couple of years. Just out of curiosity, what did you do prior to being in governmental?
I was an assistant prosecuting attorney for 6 years. I tried misdemeanors, felonies, felony jury trials, ranging across the board from B&Es, breaking and entries, to armed robberies and shootings. Obviously, in Wayne County, they have no shortage of cases to try, and I did a lot of that while I was there. Circuit court, district court, I did a lot over there for 6 years. I moved into this capacity to continue to serve, and serve in a different way as a civil servant and a public servant.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, sure. Mr. Malik.
Malik, I have a question. You mentioned about additional road funds and different things. Is this through tax increases, or is this taking from Peter to pay Paul? How is this coming about?
The way the plan came about was like this. It was a $1.2 billion plan, which is the goal that we were shooting for to 2021. Our previous funding was 19 cents a gallon, no matter what the cost was. We had a slight increase in that. What we did was take half of it directly from the general fund and allocate it directly to roads from here throughout the whole plan, $600 million. The other $600 million came from slight increases in registration fees and slight increases at the gas pump. Almost even. I believe it was 2 to 4 to get that $600 million, and we went back and forth whether it should be 3 and 3, 2 and 4, 2 at the gas pump, 4 on the registration, 4 at the gas pump, $200 million on registration, and we ended up coming up with this deal to just get $600 million from the slight increases. In 5 years, it goes to a percentage, so we don't have to deal with the problem that they had since, I believe it was 96 or 94, whenever they passed that plan to keep it at 19 cents per gallon. So from here forward, we did a phase-in. And why did we do a phase-in? Because there was not enough money, there were not enough jobs to sustain the dollars that were there previously. If we would have flooded it with $1.2 billion, perhaps the costs would have went up, and it wouldn't have done any of us any good, because we didn't have the jobs to perform all of the tasks and all of the construction. So what we did from here to 2021 was phase it in. $600 million, then $800 million, $1 billion, $1.2 billion.
Thank you.
All right. Let me take one more from the audience, one more from the council, and then we'll wrap up. So.
Linda Champagne, 250 Oak Island. You mentioned a slight increase at the pumps. Are we experiencing it right now already?
The phase-in for the increase is there. Whether you see it or not is variable, because the cost of oil coming in fluctuates. So for all intents and purposes, you don't really realize it today at the pump, because the increase is very small.
I asked, that's part one of the question. Part two is, we were recently up in Traverse City, as recently as last week, where the gas prices were $3.19 to $3.21. There's hitting $3 to $49 to $3.59 down here. And that's kind of reversal of what we've ever seen when we've gone up north. And I'm kind of curious as to why we are seeing that kind of an increase in Oakland County over, and it doesn't seem to be going down.
I haven't seen, it was what, 240?
It's 2.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm saying 3, and I'm meaning 2.
Yeah.
220, yeah, it's 35 cents cheaper up north than it is here.
I don't have an answer to that, really. It could be market forces. I don't know the answer why it's cheaper up
Yeah,
there.
I just didn't know if we were just seeing more Oakland County taxes here than they're seeing up
No,
north.
it has nothing to do with that.
All right, and Mr. Scott, and then we'll wrap up.
I guess I was in the same car with her on that.
So are we asked and answered?
No, we are, in this sense, we had a cap at 19 cents, regardless of where either the crude oil price was and/or where the end pump price was. What I'm hearing is we're phasing that into a percentage. Is it a percentage of crude oil cost or a percentage of end pump price? So if we're back to $3 or $3.40, that
It will be
19
wholesale,
It'll be
on the wholesale end.
Well, that's still going to, so is it a percentage, some percentage of that wholesale price? So as it goes up?
Not right
there's no
now.
cap,
It'll be after 5 years or so.
Okay.
We're ramping up to get to that 1.2 billion. Then after that, it changes to a percentage in order to stabilize it at that point.
Gotcha.
Well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Representative Presto.
Have
As
a
you
great
know,
evening.
Come on down whenever you get a chance. I know it's difficult with the schedule, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
It's gonna get more expensive.
At last, we've made it to item A. Okay, so we have our 2015 Citizen of the Year presentation. Our Citizen of the Year is Lynn Lewis. She's back there. And before I call her up, I did want to read a bit from the nomination form from Chris Liebold, because I think Chris did a good job of explaining some of the things that Lynn has done for us. So in her nomination, she said, Lynn has been a tremendous role model and citizen leader. She took on Girl Scouts leader role for years and organized many activities and events for them. Kids and parents just love her. Love is underlined. She also took on the Parks and Rec Chair role for many years, though it is frustrating sometimes to handle politics for a simple kids event. She handles problems with class and compassion. We appreciate Lynn Lewis for all she does, and I certainly echo those sentiments, and I know Lynn took over Parks and Rec in a fairly difficult time and has done a great job of steering that board forward, keeping great community involvement, keeping all of our events going. And when we looked at our nominees, we felt she was a very deserving nominee. So it gives me great pleasure to call up here our 2015 Citizen of the Year, Lynn Lewis. For you, a plaque.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's what we've got for you, but
All right.
we'll give you a moment up here.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And I was going to say, in 2014, Citizen of the Year right there, right?
And where is
But I'm
our
not
main
going
plaque?
to 2014 well.
There we go. Okay, and if you're looking back, you will see that Lynn's name is now on our permanent plaque for Citizen of the Year in the back of the room.
Thank you.
Right.
Hopefully I'll get through this without crying, so. Anyway, thank you, Chris Liebold, for the nomination. And I figured that as part of this, it's like, this is such a great community to live in and to volunteer. And I mean, that's part of the reason to volunteer is like you really get to learn a lot about how the village works and the people that really put the effort behind it. You know, we have such a great police force and DPW. I mean, Scott and I always joke that it's like, hey, it snowed 10 inches and we can get out of our driveway to the main road, but then we can't go anyplace else. Because our DPW is always out there at 5 a.m. And it's one of the safest places to live because of our police force. But what often goes unrecognized is that everybody who sits on council, and like, I don't know if everybody knows that everybody that sits here not only has to sit through these meetings, but there's also subcommittee meetings, and then everybody has to sit on another board, which is a painstakingly amount of time. And I don't know, how much do you guys get for each meeting? $5? $5. So true public servants here. So I thought that in honor of Mrs. Mavis, who was one of our beloved kindergarten teachers at Mary Helen Guest, she would always give out paper plate awards. So I figured that this is just a way for our community to recognize you, and these are just my votes on these. So for Mr. Pat Nagy, who's our neighbor, beloved neighbor, I'm giving him the Safety and Efficiency Expert Award because he's most likely to be sure that things are done the safest, most efficient way possible. Purdue grad that he is. So our IU, we graduated from IU. Okay, so best team player, I have this for Brian Nedrow. Most likely to do what's needed for the council team, the smartest way possible. And I just remember a story of at one festival, and I think it was Linda's idea, that the council sat in a dunk tank. And it was really, really cold water. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that they're doing this. But Brian comes in and he has a wetsuit on as he sits in the dog tank. And I was like, wow, that is like a way to take one for the team.
Ed was wearing a dress. Without a wetsuit.
That was the year of hypothermia.
Okay, and then, let's see. So for Mr. Stack, I would just say best state rep ever, has my vote here on public record, and the most likely to manage any event or problem successfully, especially those with popcorn or cotton candy machines or riverboats. And for our council president, Mr. Peacekeeper Extraordinaire, always most likely to be sure every meeting is fair and just for all. So.
You know, Lynn, you already won the award. You don't have to sign
And I'm really not. I'm just saying that these guys, they put in so much
on
work.
top of that, she's leaving town.
Yes, we do have a nice, beautiful home for sale if anybody's interested. Sorry, shameless plug. Okay, best negotiator. Does anybody know who this one's going to? Mr. John Scott. Most likely to broker any deal to get anything done for the village.
Thank you, I appreciate it, I really do.
And we have Park and Rec volunteer regular, which is Mr. Mark Duff. Most likely to support and volunteer at every Park and Rec event, even though he was assigned to Parks and Rec. So we always joke that he got the short straw. But he's like, he's been a trooper. He's always there when we do that. Okay, and Ed, I mean this in a good way. Most famous council member and most likely to be a good steward of village funds, because you're always questioning how and why funds are spent. And as a taxpayer, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Good luck.
And the last I leave for Nathan, just to say village administrator extraordinaire, most likely to follow insurance footsteps and be a great administrator in your own way. So, and that's not to take away from Mike or from Jennifer for all of the hard work you guys do, because we wouldn't be the village that we are without you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Lynn.
So Lynn came up here and made a speech about other people, and that is very Lynn-like.
Very Lynn-like, yeah.
Citizen of the Year. Okay, thank you, congratulations, Lynn. Before we move on to item B, I should say that we do have coming up on the 29th, Friday, 4 p.m., 5 p.m.?
The 22nd.
22nd.
Yeah, 4 p.m.
22nd, better. Village Administrator Extraordinaire. We do have a Cliff Cottrell memorial for Sharon Miller, our former administrator. I know I've gotten a few questions about it because it is, intended to be an honor for, it's thought of as for volunteers and other people. And the reason that we, as the admin committee put it forward, and the reason we as council voted for it is because I think people do need to be aware of all the contributions Sharon made outside the narrow confines of the job. She has for decades really embodied the spirit of volunteerism in this village, volunteered many hours for things that were not on her list of responsibilities. And in doing so, she set a great example for the village. One of the reasons this is an extraordinary place to live and to serve in is because so many of the employees consider themselves part of the community, really give of themselves outside of, just showing up and doing their job 9 to 5. And I think she set the tone there. So that a lot of people had asked me about that, and I really do want to say that we took that into consideration. It was really in honor of her contributions outside of just the strictures of showing up and being the village administrator.
Yeah, she came to a lot of events, and I'm proud to say that I was probably the only one here that hired her, and I'm very happy with the hire that we have now. So we're in good hands.
Yeah, and she came to a lot of events. She also came to an extraordinary number of citizen
Events.
funerals
Yeah, yeah.
and personal things and other things. I mean, really part of the community.
So what was that date?
22nd. July 22nd. I'm just
July
gonna
22nd.
Point out, there are invitations on the table up there for anybody who may want to pick one up. It has the date, time, location, and we are asking if you plan to come to RSVP. We're going to have some refreshments here, so Let us know if you plan to attend. The invitations are in the back next to the plaque.
I assure you all I have the date right in my Outlook. In my calendar. Okay, with that, we will now move on to item B, Park and Rec. I didn't see Lynn stuck around for that. And actually, you may even want to stick around for, what do we got? Item C. So, we've got 3 requests, really straightforward for budgeted funds. One that I had a little question about. I think I would like to entertain a single motion for the first 3. So do I hear a motion for council to release budgeted funds for the Village Festival, for the fishing tournament, and Tuesdays in the Park?
So moved. Or
Motion Duff, second Stack. Budgeted funds as requested. Any questions? Roll call vote.
McGee.
Yes.
Maggie.
Yes.
Yes.
Staff.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Motion carries. For the fourth, motion to recommend council to approve purchase of 6 banners to promote Facebook and other contact information within the village. These would be banners to go at the general signs. And I think the only question we had is we didn't have a cost associated with that. So the last set of them cost $50 each.
When you say a banner, you mean a cloth or a sign?
I think we're talking about a sign like the other ones that
One of
they've
those
done for the
vinyl.
fishing tournament.
Vinyl
It's
sign.
the
ones that
go
in between the PVC
add-ons.
All right, okay.
I think, Nathan, you said the other ones were $50.
Yeah, the last time we purchased banners, I think it was $50 each. I assume these would be the same. I've seen a design, but I just didn't see the cost.
And I think when they requested them, it was $50 when they put in the initial request in it.
Okay, and Mark is saying the initial request was $50, so release $300 to?
Yeah.
Okay. So for some reason, that didn't come along with it.
Oh.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to release $300 for 6 banners to promote the village Facebook page and other contact information?
Second.
Motion Duff, second Nagy. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Maggie.
Yes.
Yes.
Staff.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right, thank you, council. Okay, next item, Clara Miller Park Master Plan proposal from Carlisle Wortman. Estimated fee $8,960. As you saw, the request to get an estimate of this came forward from, I believe it was Park and Rec Capital Committee from that meeting. And it came forward for a few reasons, and I think and I thought it was a good idea for several reasons. So we'll talk a little bit about what's in the specifics, and if we like the scope, we want to talk about the scope of it. But we have over, since I've been in the village, a number of things have been proposed for down in that park, from frisbee golf to, I believe we had a skateboard park proposed at one point. We've had a proposal to potentially close the dirt road and make it all grass down there in the.
I think in one of the proposals, there was a toboggan slide, too.
There've been a lot of proposals.
That's pretty accurate.
The eternally
Congress
on and
has
off
built that
concession
already.
stand. And aside from the long period of financial difficulties that we went through that, really made any of the larger projects kind of out of scope, one of the things that I don't know that we've always had a good sense of is exactly what we would like to do in that park. What's the best long-term plan for it? And when we had this last Park and Rec Capital Committee, we got a presentation from a couple of guys who do local fields. They do soccer and other things, and they really like to partner with communities, put together a plan. They generally raise the money from their soccer leagues to put in fields, be they practice fields or larger fields. We obviously don't have space down there for a large 8 soccer field complex or anything, and it really it's hard to progress on something like that without a direct plan. So I felt there was a need for better, sharper community planning there in terms of us expressing what we really want and us seeing what we really want. The other really good reason to have a more detailed plan than we do is having that plan makes you much more likely to get grants as you propose them. So those are the 2 things that I thought were worth bringing forward in this. So that's why I also favored bringing this forward. We do have a proposal now. Trying to decide the next step to proceed, but maybe Nathan, do you want to tell people what's in the proposal?
Yeah, and certainly anybody who'd like a copy of this, we'd be happy to provide it. There are 9 different tasks. Prepare analysis of existing conditions, including photo documentation, ADA analysis, usage analysis, and equipment and building evaluation. Hold community input session at Village Hall to evaluate recreation demands and present alternatives. Develop and monitor online survey to further gauge community desires. Develop park plan based on feedback from community input session and preliminary input from meeting on June 3rd, 2016. Prepare design graphics utilizing AutoCAD and GIS data procured from the county. Present conceptual plan to the village committee and obtain comments. Revise conceptual plan based on comments received. Prepare cost estimates, phasing, and implementation strategies. Present revised plan and draft report to village council. Revise plans and cost estimate based on comments from village council. Send PDF file of finalized plans to village for implementation. And then the final task is to transmit the final report to MDNR as an addendum to the 2016 Recreation Master Plan. And Mr. President, I just want to point out, I just realized the dollar amount I included on the agenda was not the grand total, that was a partial total. It's actually $98.15. If you see on the report there, I subtracted. I had the total and the estimated fee without one of the hourly figures factored in, so it's $98.15. But that would be the what would be completed in the plan.
So we're really talking about a $10,000 item.
Just about.
Mr. President?
Yes, go
Comment?
ahead.
A lot of this, I think, is something that you almost need a consultant to do, but a lot of this stuff, some of the biggest number items for hours are stuff, hold an evaluation here for the community and develop a basis for feedback of input. I can't see why a lot of that can't be done in-house. I mean, it seems like everything we do now, if a consultant doesn't do it, it's not right. And I almost wonder why we don't do the opposite. Put something together and then hand it to a consultant and let them look at what we think we need and then say, well, this, that, and the other thing, but here's other than, and, I shouldn't say a total stranger, but somebody that's not lived or familiar with the community, past, present, future, to design our park.
Yep.
And even though we get input from people, a lot of that input we get when we're not from residents. Some of them were, when they fill it out, I don't think there's any age in there. That some children were filling that out too. So I don't see a problem with doing it, but I just wonder why some of their big ticket items is something that I would think could be easily done in-house.
So Ed, 2 items. I think some of these hours, more hours will need to go into doing some of this analysis, holding some of these events than is what's reflected here. What's reflected here is the hours their firm will do on it. In terms of a total stranger, this will actually be under the direction of Sally Elminger, who's our long-term planning consultant. Chris Nordson, who's here, and I'll ask to come up in a second and answer questions and talk about what's in here, would be doing a lot of the day-to-day work, because he really handles park landscape architecture for their firm. So he's really familiar with a lot of the current requirements, a lot of the modern requirements. So I think that's what's there. But rather than me, go on, Chris, you want to come up and tell us what's in the proposal and what we would end up with?
I think Mr. Sinkowitz has a very good point. That when you at first blush, you look at that and you say, why do we have to have the consultant come out, sit down with the people and find out what's going on? We can tell them what the people are telling us is going on and what they want to see in place. But I think there's a real value in my coming to the community, speaking one-on-one with people and hearing some things that it's almost the inverse of what you're saying, where because you have been here, I don't know how long, we'll say your entire life, and you know the community so well, you kind of come in with some preconceived notions. And a lot of times when you come in with somebody from the outside and they start to speak with the other community members, you start to hear some different rumblings or different ideas that might be missed, or I might be coming in with some ideas from other communities where I've had some experience. And that's where my value comes in as a consultant, and that's why those hours are there. But I do agree that I can't do anything without your assistance, without the residents' assistance. I think it's critical that we have that feedback back and forth, and that's why you see those hours up front, so I can have a really good understanding of what the community wants and what the community needs and what's realistic for the community. But the idea is basically we have this meeting up front we've already had one meeting where we've spoken, and is Andy, I'm sorry, I can't remember your last name, but he gave me a really wonderful description of what he's seen at the parks, what he thinks is going to be useful going forward, what works, what doesn't. And those types of things I'm going to try to bring in as best I can, consolidate everything into one concise report that we can then turn to the MDNR and get those grant funds that are so desperately needed, because these park restorations and park modifications can prove to be extremely expensive. So that's, my goal is to try to get you something that's fiscally responsible, and that is something that we can then go out and find some other funds to help you get these things implemented.
So am I right in my thinking that when we get to the end of this, we've gone through the hearings, we've gotten community input where we can, we've talked with staff, we've reviewed the actual what's on the ground there, we would come back with also some recommendations of, it looks like, opening up more space by the tennis courts by, maybe closing the road and doing it is a good idea or potentially a bad idea. I honestly could not tell you one way or the other right now.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And just to give you I went through there after our last meeting in June and just took a walk around to get a tour of myself and see what was there. And I saw a family that was there with her kids playing, and saw the equipment, and started to see some of the things that Andy had written in his report and that we had talked about in the meeting. And so I've got an idea of how things can go, but it's going to take a little bit more time to really dig in depth and understand what ultimately is going to work best. I mean, you've got some great facilities there. Is it roller hockey rink there is wonderful, but what about the idea of taking that, sinking it down, and now you've got something you can use in the wintertime for actual hockey? Either flood it, or you could put in some kind of a artificial surface you could skate on it year round. These are kinds of ideas that might not be immediately apparent, but if it's brought up to people and they go, wow, that's actually a great idea, I'd love to go skate in July. Those are the types of things that where the outside eye is kind of helpful to have come in. But I do think that there's some really good opportunities to just turn things around a little bit. That concession stand, if you're going to have any kind of organized soccer, I think they were talking rugby at the other meeting, a little bit more softball, something like that, there's a chance for the community to start making some money. So there's a lot of different things that come into play in a plan like this that, at this point, I can't speak to too well because I don't know the ins and outs of the community, but by the time this is done, I can't say I'm going to be on the same level as Sally. She's got a lot of experience here. But I certainly think that we'll have a report that you'll be very proud to turn into the DNR, and that will be beneficial for the community in the long run.
A few other comments when we chaired that, and of course you were there, John, but when we had you and Sally there, I think we were going to try and take sort of a blank slate approach. Is that still part of the thinking? I mean, to really say, what would you do? Obviously, considering the fact this community has high capital cost in equipment already, but how could you change and use what we have in a different configuration?
Absolutely. I don't want to come in. One of the challenges of having any kind of a public meeting is you do come in with preconceived notions.
Right.
And I've learned over the years how to step back from that and just listen. Have people say, I want this, that, and the other thing. But then be able to discuss it and say, okay, that's an alternative, here's another alternative. Would you consider something like this? So it is very much a blank slate. There may be some equipment there that the community just says, man, we don't need this anymore. Maybe that roller hockey is the dumbest idea ever. I don't know. Maybe people think that's the greatest thing that's ever happened. I can't believe we don't use it more. Maybe they'll come back and say, we absolutely don't want soccer here. That's a silly idea. We can go next door if we want that. That's why you have to have that initial meeting to really gauge what people are asking for. That's also why I wanted to put in an online survey where people can come in and write comments, and we can consolidate all of that information as well as what you're going to get from the meeting. Because let's be honest, at a meeting, not everybody's going to be able to be there. But there are a lot of people who are going to want to have input. Your point about having people from outside the community or having kids come on and do that, we can try to work out ways to avoid that problem. And certainly whenever you are looking at any kind of online survey result, you take it with a grain of salt and you discuss it. It's not something that stands, it's certainly not the Bible. It's something that you look at and think, now, is this somebody that's just trying to troll us a little bit? You know, we don't really need to have a 500-story skyscraper on this park with a zip line going down. I mean, there are some things you'll know right away that this isn't legitimate, we aren't going to worry about it. But it is something to keep in, it's a good way to get the input from as many people as possible who would be using the park. So that's why I want to include that as part of this process.
Among those other discussions, we talked about the fact that we have neighborhood parks. And I know Amini is one of those that we're dealing with. Oak Island is one, possibility of Helmsford, and another piece of property we own. I just want to make sure that we're going to take some look at that and make sure there's a coordinated relationship between how all those parks might operate, even though we're going to do a master plan on Amenia and try and duplicate it as we get more neighborhood parks
Well,
going.
I think what we're looking for out of this is really Clara Miller specific. However, it would be difficult, I think, to address Clara Miller without at least, saying,
Looking at
and
what
this
we-
is, this is maybe not an appropriate Clara Miller thing, this is more appropriate for a neighborhood park someplace else.
Yeah,
I mean-
bike arounds, walk arounds, whatever you might be doing.
Right. None of your parks are going to operate in a vacuum.
Right.
You want to have some kind of a cohesiveness going on, and again, you avoid duplication, unless it's something that does make sense. For example, having a small play structure at Amenia, having a small play structure at Clara Miller, those aren't conflicting interests. But trying to put in, not that you could put in one, say softball field at Amenia, and again, no, that can't happen. But that would be redundant. There's no reason to do that. You don't get enough use for it.
Yeah. Mike Scotia, who's on our water management team, and the gentleman that was there from the WC3 soccer, I met him just coincidentally recently. He's out of the country right now, but he has determined that they would really love to move forward in the ability of some of those empty fields to do half soccer fields, something for the kids, 3 to 6, 3 to 7, something like that. Should I have them get in touch with you? Is that the best approach?
I think that would be fine. And
Is that okay with,
If we proceed with this.
Yeah, if we proceed with this, yeah.
Yeah, you're certainly welcome to give anybody my email address and number at the office, and I'll be happy to take any kind of calls that come in.
Since we do have the chair of Park and Rec here, I thought I'd see if, Lynn, do you have any comment?
No, I mean, listening to what everybody had to say, but I think as a board, we just feel like, as a board, we kind of feel like, we're not experts, we're in it because our hearts are in it, and so we want to make sure that we have direction to make good decisions and make sure that if we're replacing equipment or doing something, that it's kind of what's best for the community, because the reality is it's not cheap to replace park equipment or to make a good soccer field and all of those different elements, and we want to make sure that it's in alignment from a DPW perspective as well. So I mean, that's kind of what we're looking for, is that volunteers come and go, and we want kind of like a solid plan for the community to be able to say, this is what, with community input, this is kind of what we think is the best plan to make this a viable place now and in the future for future generations.
And I would take issue with you saying you're not an expert, because I think you guys are the experts. You know what's going on here and what people.
Well, but I just mean, we're not
Right.
park planners.
Sure, understood.
That's what I meant.
But I do, again, seriously, I really do think that you have a very good idea of what your capabilities are here, and that's important to incorporate into this. I just read an article today about Colorado Springs, and their park system had shuttered all but 2 of their parks as of 2012. By this past year, they had, through volunteer efforts, through a new millage, I believe, and through a few other steps that they took where they streamlined some things. They worked in some DPW projects into their parks, some stormwater management. They were able to not only reopen all of their parks, but actually put in a new one, and the new park has been rated the top park in the country for the past year. I'm not saying that's going to necessarily happen with Clara Miller, but certainly it is something that it gives you an idea of looking at the alternatives. And that's part of what this report will do, is look at alternative ways of approaching financing and maintenance, because long-term maintenance is the key for any good park.
Yeah.
And I will try to have as much information in there as possible so we can take that and go forward with it and have this park be a viable, or a vibrant part of the community for a long time.
Great.
Question for the treasurer, since we did not originally budget for this.
I already know what it is. Actually, we did. There is a line item that says recreation plans. However, the anticipation, the dollar amount in there is $7,500, and the anticipation was that that was going to cover both a study of Clara Miller Park as well as a study of the Amelia Park. So, if council goes or proceeds along the lines of, with the dollar parameters indicated, we might want to do a budget amendment along with that, if only to incorporate this study, and then at a later point in time, if we've simply, missed our guess as to what the Amelia Park study would cost when we do that, or when it comes down to that, then we can look at that again.
Okay. I think last thing I want to say is, so over the last year, we've taken a look at park things in a variety of ways. Every time we do, I suffer new sticker shock, because there are things that I find that I didn't consider originally. ADA compliance is a big one. Accessibility is a big one. Just the cost of park equipment, I find it costs more than a swing set down at the local department store. So I think this would be money well spent in terms of having a good blueprint and a good plan to go forward. So I think what we need now, if we'd like to proceed, is a motion to authorize the Clara Miller Park Master Plan proposal at a cost not to exceed $9,815.
Second.
Motion Stack, second Duff. Further discussion?
Yeah, I think this is the right direction to go in. I appreciate what Mr. Sinkowitz is saying, but I think we need like a professional approach to look at people who deal with this stuff all the time, day in and day out, and they can get a better perspective of what's the best way to proceed and offer different suggestions, and as mentioned, to make it safe and efficient, so our kids don't get hurt out there at the park, okay? So I just think that's the kind of direction we need, at least at this time, okay?
And I agree with what our Citizen of the Year said. It'd be nice to have a long-term plan because of the turnover on the board. So that way we aren't trying to refigure out every couple of years, well, what do you want to do with the park? What do you want to do with the park?
I think that's been one of our problems, is we get new people in and they have enthusiasms, but we don't quite have that long-term vision, because.
And it would be, like you said, a blueprint, something said, this is what we can do here, here's the dollar cost, how do we manage this dollar cost of
Not gonna happen
over the next
overnight,
4 or
but-
5 years, and by having a plan, we aren't coming back, oh, well, what about this, well,
Yeah, good point,
this is it.
good point. No zip lines, I like that.
Further discussion? Or zip lines? We don't want to preach it.
Sometimes it'd be fun.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, let's go to a roll
Your
call
house to
vote.
the park.
No.
Yes.
Stack?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Pedro?
Yes.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Maggie?
Yes.
All right, thank you, council.
Thank you.
Look forward to talking with you much more about it. Okay. Brings us to item D, Lakes Area Youth Assistance Contract, July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2017, $4,200 as it's been. Mr. Stack.
Yep, and I'm sorry I wasn't at the budget meeting. I missed that because I would have liked to increase that money by $300, but since I was not there to put my input in and forgot to inform anybody about it, I think that the $4,200 would be money well spent. They do a great service for the village, for the community. And I know I always get the question, how many kids directly in the village did we help? We helped quite a few kids directly in this village, and the thing is, it may not necessarily benefit this money every kid in this village. However, that's who your kids are hanging out with, and those are the kids that are coming into our neighborhood. It affects the school district, not a community in specific, but our whole consolidated school district is the community that works for. So I would love to make a motion to approve the $4,200.
Second. Motion Stack, second Duff. Further discussion?
Like I said, as Mike said, it's money well spent. I know Mike has put countless hours in supporting Lakes Area Youth Assistance, and I think it's something that it's definitely a benefit for the community.
Well, we do have, and this will be in the fall, David DeLeon speaking on the opiate and heroin issue, but he will be here next Wednesday night at Wixom at 7 o'clock. We brought him in for the summer to do a trial run in Michigan so we can get to meet him, and he's a nationally renowned speaker on this issue, and we're expecting a full house over there. But anybody that would like to attend, please feel free to show up.
And in addition to money well spent, I think it's important to notice that this is the village budget part of this for, this community service, but it's also money that serves as a kernel around a lot of volunteer fundraising and a lot of other money that goes into it, and a lot of effort that goes into it. So
In the village also, we have the police support, which is huge. It's a big part. I mean, having a police liaison on that, to make referrals, and just to give us an input on what's happening with the kids in the community. That's nice to know, because we can all guess at what's going on. But when we talk to Captain Ellsworth or Rebecca List, they can tell us exactly what's going on in the community, and sometimes it's quite shocking when you find out. So I do appreciate that. Thank you, Captain, or Chief, excuse me. Too many years of Captain. Thank you, Chief, for your support. I hope you continue the support.
all right, further discussion on the motion? Roll call vote.
Stack?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes?
Nedrow?
Yes.
Linkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Maggie?
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Thank
Motion
you.
carries. Thank you. Okay, brings us to item D, recommendations from Engineer Powell. The first is a potential grant pilot program that we asked you to take a look at and see if it's appropriate.
Yes, and Nathan did send that to my office, and I looked at it. I've also talked with the Road Commission a little bit on it. As you can tell from my letter, the grant seems to be very, very specific on expanding existing businesses or bringing new businesses, and then they say into the county. So their goal is not necessarily to have businesses move around within the county between municipalities, but bring new businesses into the county. I think you all know that we're fairly limited on future expansion here in the village. We have some spaces up in the Panhandle, a couple empty parcels here on Glengarry Road, but otherwise we don't have a great deal of spots for new businesses to locate. We do, however, have some businesses that want to expand and or enhance their business, and in my letter here, I kind of pointed out that we had been in conversation with the Glengarry Inn at some time, Kaya Restaurant, the McNabb Car Wash would like to bring a coffee shop and ice cream parlor there up where his car wash is, where part of the car wash is. New office building has been proposed here on Glengarry Road, and the Lake Stewart Apartments kind of expressed a desire to expand up there on South Commerce and Oakley Park Road. I had also forgotten that the Glengarry Inn, or the Glengarry Party Store, at one time had a very large expansion that they were proposing, and the economy kind of derailed their plans for a while. I say all that because those are dealing with the businesses, and that's what this grant is totally about. I do want to remind the council that there are two areas in the village that we've been looking to possibly enhance the traffic and the safety. The one is the left-hand or the passing lane between Shankin and Wanda. We were looking for some means of being able to safeguard the people turning left and pulling in out of those two streets there on those curves. We were trying to combine the tri-party funds with Walled Lake's tri-party funds, but Walled Lake has their tri-party funds earmarked towards the big improvements there on Maple, and so it'll be many years before they have additional or extra tri-party funds. The other one might be is that you've noticed that on South Commerce Road, we've extended the southbound lane or the right-hand turn lane on Glengarry Road a substantial distance to the north. Oakland County Road Commission kind of has had a policy over the years to require the traffic lane to be straight through, and then as businesses come in or subdivisions tie into the roadways, that they just have the lane veer off a right-hand turn or a right-hand decel lane, and then an XL lane coming out, and they want it jogged back out, even if there's another decel lane maybe 100 feet away. They don't like tying those together because it gives traffic the concept that you get over into this lane, you can pass everybody and pull in. So they consider that improper. However, the chief points out that due to our configuration with the school system, people that get in the right-hand turn lane, they know they have to turn right on Glengarry Road, and it would relieve some of the traffic jam of people coming out of the high school at certain parts of the day. However, I don't believe that those two safety issues would really fall in line with what this particular grant is for. That doesn't mean that we couldn't make application for those or any of the others businesses here in the village. It just doesn't seem to enhance what the county exec is looking for.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, when I looked at the specific criteria of the grant and what we've got, you know, some potential projects out there, but nothing that's like a concrete, hey, if we can put in this turn lane, we can add 10 jobs kind of thing. And that felt to me like exactly what they're looking for. So I'm not sure it's worth pursuing further because I just don't think we meet the criteria.
I agree, Mr. President. There's just, you know, I don't even want to say close but no cigar, you know, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't want to see us put any more effort into a grant that we're not likely to get.
I just want to point out that if I read that right, the county contribution was only $47.99, I believe.
That's
so
correct.
I don't even know that would be enough to do a lot of the projects that we would even
Well,
want.
it's their $47.99, but then they require us to match with 50%, to double it.
So I
So
don't-
that would be money out of our pocket, probably for not much return to the village in that aspect.
Well, I would say not every investigation we do turns up with grant money.
Like, approximately how many communities do you know who are looking at this seriously to take advantage of this? I mean, I would presume, like you're saying, bigger communities possibly, but and I agree with Mr. McGee that I don't think this is something we really want to get involved in.
Well, this letter went out to every community in the county. And so whether you're an Act 51 community or not, it's going to follow the tri-party program. There are certainly communities that have Automation Alley and the bigger communities that pull in from Germany and Japan and all that kind of stuff that might have a much better shot at it than we might.
I think that's all we've got on that one.
Yes, I think so.
Brings us to item 2, payment of $8,500 to McKerney Asphalt and Sealing for completing the tennis courts.
Well, I don't know if any of you have taken advantage of really the new surfacing of the tennis courts and the pickleball. And I play tennis, but I've never played pickleball, and I'd very much like to and haven't yet. But it's the difference between night and day between the old tennis and pickleball courts than it is now. And so this is the precise amount that McNeary Asphalt quoted and what council authorized, and therefore I recommend that council send a payment of $8,500 to McKearney Asphalt.
All right, do I hear any motion to that effect?
Motion to do that.
Motion Nagy, second Duff, to pay McKearney Asphalt $8,500 for completing the tennis courts. Questions?
I think they look great.
Yes. Andy, were you satisfied the way they did the court and filled it in and everything too? Well, the poles are okay? Net?
I've heard nothing but good stuff about it from the pickleballers.
I did also hear from a happy
No
pickleballer.
tennis player, but the pickleballers.
All right, further discussion. Roll call vote?
Scott?
Yes.
Nedrow?
Yes.
Linkout?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Nagy?
Yes.
Duff?
Yes.
Staff?
Yes.
Brings us to item 3.
This is pretty straightforward, and we're so close to the end of our ordeal here on the underground storage tank issue. The water main is in. It is tapped into the Commerce Township water main that is on the south side of Glengarry Road. So that water main is live. The taps have been made for each of the 3 homes. The county came out and made those taps actually the end of last week on Thursday. I've met with the plumber out there. We've only had the opportunity to go into one of the homes, Sue Swire's home in the center, and they've given the main contractor the price to be able to connect that house in. Our timing for tying the last house in on the street, the 3rd house on the right, is set back a little bit because the timing is they did something crazy and went to Hawaii for 3 weeks, and so we have to wait for them to get back. But otherwise,
I know you are shocked to hear that somebody might go to Hawaii for next
I can't believe that.
In the summer.
Nothing to do there at all. I do wait till February, but the contractor is ready, willing, and able to connect all those 3 homes in just as soon as we can get into that last home. We are not going to wait for the homeowners to get back from Hawaii. So the very first of next week, the plumbing contractor is going to go in and put the meters in. I already have the meters. They're going to connect the meters in the first 2 homes. Then the prime contractor will be putting the line from the street to the home and abandoning the wells, and then as soon as the resident gets back, the meter will be put in their house. So I would think the very end of next week, that project should be done and grass being planted. In the meantime, I apologize, in the meantime, this $47,925 is the amount that corresponds to the work that has already been done out there, and it's based upon the budgeted funds for the project.
What was the total budget that for the contract to do the work, do you recall?
I believe it's 57,000, something like that. Let's see. I'm sorry, $64,535.
Okay.
And the fire hydrant, they put that on the freshwater supply versus the well then?
It is on the freshwater
Yeah.
supply. That entire line is on the freshwater supply from Commerce Township, so it is Commerce Township water, which is soft. Each of the residents want their water softener removed because it's no longer needed, and so it's the best water in the area.
Mike, as far as restoration goes, I think you might have some discussion with a couple of neighbors, because I don't like driving down Marchar for a while there with that machine parked on her lawn, which was unfortunate, but I saw a lot of the concrete or asphalt got disturbed. So all that's going to be repaired?
All that's going to be repaired, a little more asphalt than what we thought was going to have to be repaired, because we're going to have to take a ribbon of Marchar and repair some of the edge of Marchar when they had their large equipment balancing on the edge of the road there. The water main's only 4 feet off the edge of the pavement, so as they were digging, they had to be half on Marchar and half off. But yes, the restoration, we've already talked to the lady at the 4th house in. Unfortunately, they left a piece of equipment on her property, and she's not even part of the project, and so we had that moved, and hopefully she's much more satisfied now.
All right, do I hear a motion to pay the invoice to Milford Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $47,925?
So moved. Second.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Stack. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Thank you,
Looking forward
council,
to
very much.
Completing our underground storage tank odyssey. All right, recommendations from the admin committee. As you'll see, they involve road ends. We have gotten back the surveys on the ones that we asked for. We've gone out and actually walked the surveys in our next admin committee on Friday. We're going to meet with the attorney, look over what we found, try to make recommendations in terms of easements and licenses that are fair both ways around. I'm sorry, we've lost Mr. Tupper in regards to the one that was by him. We did walk that one. Seeing the actual line now is difficult because of the construction that's gone out. It removed it, but there were enough pieces that were there on both the map and still there that we could look at it. And it didn't look to us as if the trees that were removed were on the road end. So, you know, we can go back and take another look at it, but it looked as if the trees that were removed were on the neighbor's
That's what it looked
property.
like, yeah.
In terms of the recommendations that we have, the first is, as we looked at the platting, we noticed that there was another additional road ending that we did not include in the original survey. It's a road end at the end of Ladd Road. So we'd like to get that one surveyed to make a clean sweep of them. Ha. And we do have, sorry, we do have our former ZBA Chair, Christine Edrow, so if you would like to come up and comment on it, thank you.
Christine Edrow, 515 Laguna Court. When I was on ZBA, the house next to it, the brick house, I believe that address is 1865. They came in front of us and they had all their information. They have an easement to reach their house because you cannot landlock a buildable lot. So they have an easement. There is also a 10-foot promenade down Lakeview, and there's a 10-foot section on the water side of that fence. They're not their house, but on the other side. There was an opening in the fence, and we said that they could not put that fence back up because it is an access site. My parents live over on Brushwood. I was curious to find out where their subdivision access site was, and I was kind of hoping it was this one, but it wasn't. This one, with my research when I was paying taxes up at Commerce, is Park Row. Those few houses. That is supposed to be their access. And I don't, way back when, I think, I'm not sure if it was when we had first moved in, before the paving, there was, Park Row, I think, went a little bit farther, that wasn't blocked off at one point. So that might have went all the way down. But those people do have an easement as far as they came in front of us, and that was all there. So I just figured I'd give you some background.
So do you recall, was that deeded access for Park Row, or was it
It is
end of the
plotted.
road end of Park Row?
It is plotted for them if, you know the big book up at Commerce, and I think we have one here. If you go through there and look, I believe it's stated on there.
Yeah,
that it was.
One of the things that has happened in some of these is that, you know, as the subdivision was platted, there was an area that was, you know, used for ingress and egress of the area, and then it was given over to the village as basically a road end.
This one, though, was still on there, it's
So this
Park
one is
Row.
still
I think
on
it was
there.
Park Row.
So
That, it was those houses that I had looked. And I do know when one of the houses next to it, the blue house, when that went up for sale, the real estate agent listed it as having an awful lot of lakefront access or lakefront property, and when I had called them on it and I asked them, they told me, I said, no, that's subdivision access, they hung up on me.
Oh, the
That's
things
why I
real
was
estate
kind of-
agents say.
Yeah.
Part of my business.
So,
That's typical.
that's kind of why that fence went back up, and they've kind
Well,
of
they get
taken it
sued.
over, and I do know other people who thought it was theirs, they have been kicked off.
Okay, so it sounds to me like maybe before we proceed with a survey, we should have the attorney investigate a bit to see if it is actually genuinely a road end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just look.
You've been so quiet today, I forgot
So-
where you
I think there's.
I was waiting for this.
I just wanted to give you some information, that's what I know.
No,
what
that's
appeared
really?
in front
that's
of
really
ZBA.
helpful, because when we were looking at it that day, it looked to us as if it was
It's
continuation
platted
and
as a
road
combo?
end there.
Right, and those people, like I said, you can't landlock them, it was a house, it was
Yep.
buildable, so they have an easement
Mm-hmm.
to get to their house. And you can see pretty much where it stops on the house right before it.
What subdivision is it? Does anyone know?
See, Park Row is that little dirt road, which I found was really surprising. There's very few houses on it.
Yeah, it's parallel to the ladder right there.
Well, I'll look at the plat. I mean, it'll tell us, and a lot of times in areas like this, it's a couple plats that you piece together and,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, I went through looking at them over at Commerce, but we should have one here too.
Yeah, you can
And that.
actually look at the subdivision plats online. It's through the state of
Yeah.
Michigan. that puts them out.
So, I just figured I'd give you some information
Nope,
that I
that's
knew.
great. That's really helpful. One of the other things is we don't actually yet have the estimate from our surveyor on this survey, so we were a little bit at odds as to, or at a loss as to what to do. But it sounds to me like what we should really do is find out if it's legitimately a road ending or not
Right.
first before we proceed.
Which is
So-
what we've been doing with all of the
Yeah,
areas.
as we've been going through. So, I think we'll just ask the attorney to investigate this one, and we'll hold off on any motions or any, or authorizing an actual survey.
Do we have an amount that we're planning to spend on all this, or is it just keep wheeling it out as it comes up?
It has
question.
It has
Excellent question.
been so far as it comes up. We have spent $6,000 on the surveys to date. Some additional amount of attorney time. So.
I don't think Dave said it was going to be that much more to do that, if I
I don't think so,
recall.
though. I think, Nathan, when you talked with him, he said there were complications about this
He
one.
said, I believe his quote was, there might be a little bit more to this one, and he told me I would have a quote tomorrow, which wasn't particularly helpful for tonight.
Right.
That's Dave.
But I can certainly get in touch with him and have him hold off until we complete the research that we talked about today.
Yeah, maybe have it next week.
You know, following up on Edward's question, in terms of attorney's fees, we sort of have the Marshar model to work from. And I know the administrative committee has looked at these plats. Are we dealing with as much complicated issues that are going to need negotiation for the next 5 road endings or 4?
I don't know, I think I'm gonna find that out on Friday.
We'll talk about that on Friday. I think on the road endings that we did in this batch, they were, for the most part, pretty straightforward, and I think we could deal with them all in terms of, I think, the reasonable accommodations we came to on Marshar. There was one instance where there's been fairly significant encroachment, and I think that may be the one that takes quite a bit of attention. So.
Yeah.
And I guess sort of a follow-up on that question, how did we get to this point, in a sense? Are the road endings being village property in essence, are they part of the inspector's responsibility to say, I'm sorry, you can't do anything there? I mean, we have them doing that or him doing that when somebody's building on private lands.
So I think there are kind of two things that I've seen over time. One of which is, so there are a few sort of seawall encroachments where, people go out there, they build the seawall and then, end it off. There's nothing there. They tie around. There are some landscaping encroachments which often do not require, building inspector and all of that. And then in this one particular one, it looks to me as if the house was not built where the plan called for. And I think that's more problematic. And then there was a play structure that was clearly just put over on the road ending, no matter how you might define that property.
Okay.
So
nobody, it was visible or should have been visible. Now we found out about it. Now we need to spend more money to negotiate our way through an accommodation with those.
I think a lot of it is that until somebody complains.
Yeah, the
It's
road
just-
endings
it's-
have been,
it
since
just
I've
sits
been in the
there.
village, an area of benign neglect.
I mean, like on Marcher, I saw boat hoist there, I saw a couple docks at one time, a picnic table, a fire pit, a barrel filled with garbage that used to get burned periodically. I parked the truck there a couple times, but it was never like,
I really think it's been an evolution of quite a lot of things. It's been some litigation that has brought some encroachments to the forefront. It has been you looking at developing the pocket parks. We realized there were encroachments there. I mean, as you know, a lot of these plats, the plat I was looking at tonight for the Mallow Beach was from 1925, and that's a newer one. The roads just aren't where they are supposed to be, and people think this is a park. It's really a private outlot. It's just a lot of legal nuances that, when you look at it, it doesn't look like that. But things have come up over the years, and more so lately. I think in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years. Making you look at all of that.
So that's why we're taking this proactive approach, I guess.
Yeah, I think in the long run, we're going to be glad that we went through this. We'll establish some consistency, we'll establish fairness. I think one of the things that's going to come out of it is we as a village are probably going to have to take on a little bit more of the responsibility for keeping an eye on these and making sure that they're accessible and well-maintained. But as we also know, the era of benign neglect led to
Costly
confusion and
Confusion,
unhappiness. So I think we're just gonna keep working through them. We'll get them all, we'll get them sorted out, and then I think we'll be able to be consistent. I think it'll be clear. I think in the long run, everybody's going to be happier, but
Some residents may not be, but.
we have heard from a couple residents who are, especially ones who are adjacent, who are not, they're pretty concerned about
We do,
what.
we do on our property, yeah.
But
At the same point in time, that happens to be the way real estate is, in fact, enforced. I mean,
Yep.
lines are enforced.
Yep.
You step on their property, they're certainly going to say something. This is the citizen's property, so we have to manage it. Simple as that.
Yes, yeah.
And with some hesitance, I would say, after we're done with the road endings, on one of these council agendas, I'd like to see us pick up the Helmsford Park issues as well as the old DNR land up in front of the apartments. Because those are two pieces of property we own, and
that we may need more clarity about, yeah.
that we need, yeah.
I thought we couldn't do anything on Helmsford because of the way it was deeded.
There's encroachments on both of those.
It's encroachments, but I think we cleared up the deeding issue. I think it's deeded clearly to
We welcome one
the,
in the neighborhood.
to the village.
Well, there is sadly no end of complicated.
Living on Oak Island, I can tell you that story.
Yeah, it's.
Oak Island,
Who knows?
that's what they
Go
get
back in
living
time,
on
we
the island.
replat the village, but,
Yeah.
and honestly, I think a lot of it is just, things were built in one place, people thought they're in the right place, they've been there for a long time. We're just gonna need to sort it out the best we can.
Are we done with this?
I think we're done with this one.
I have another comment, just,
Okay.
but pertains to the administrative committee. It seems like some of the most controversial and the more delicate or important issues come out of the administrative committee that are given to the council to decide. I am asking or proposing that minutes be taken of the administrative committee, because I personally, nobody else knows what you discussed to get to this point to make that a recommendation. And I think the other committees do it, and it would be nice to know, not word for word per se, but, some type of an agenda or minutes, so that when you come out and you say, this is why we're doing this, and we want you to vote on it, all I am going by is what you three decided and come here to put to us, and a little bit that's in the package. But there might have been other things that you decided or were presented that I might have agreed with or disagreed with that I never know about.
So Ed, are you looking for a recording secretary for the admin committee?
Yes,
Okay.
you meet every week, right? I mean, once a month?
Once a month,
Yeah.
usually, sometimes twice. depending
Because
on what we have.
it is the most powerful and the most important committee kind of in the community for every day and policies and things like that. And it would just be nice to know what actually takes place in the meetings to get the decisions that you guys come up with.
I don't disagree with that, Ed. I think, certainly, I think we have to be sensitive to, there might be some items.
Oh, yeah.
That.
Just like when we have negotiations.
When we have negotiations or closed sessions, but, I mean, this is somewhat straightforward. We've been in conversations about these road endings for a long time, but.
Maybe just a summary of what happened.
Just a summary, like
having
Nathan
someone come
puts
in and
out
actually
that,
take
that
minutes.
quick summary.
Summary of
just
what was
out to the
discussed.
council, it says,
I think Nathan can take some notes.
Well, we can start, I mean, I don't,
I don't disagree
Coordinate, yeah.
with the notion of some more expanded minutes that might do it. I'm just, I don't know.
because
that I wanna turn
basically we
Nathan into our
get
recording
your
secretary.
recommendation and take it or leave it.
And I should say, well, feel free to ask every question you want at any council meeting.
But I don't know what the things that you discussed, I mean, you might discuss about this, about, people filling in on the shoreline and stuff like that, and I never heard that, it wasn't brought up, and then, it comes up to, but I'm just saying that it'd be nice to know what was discussed for you three to come at the final result that you did. So, I mean, I can't see having a recording secretary being a big financial burden
not a big item. Oh, council's pleasure. What do you want there?
I think we're relatively innocent. I think when we bring something to the council, I mean, we try to spell it out exactly what we discuss, and that's like, just not what item you voted on or you don't vote on it, okay? We try to explain why we came to that agreement with whatever backup we need. That's what we've been doing. It's not that we've been trying to, that we do things in there and it doesn't come here. I mean, just like
I'd like to
last
make a
week.
motion that we-
I do, however, want to be sensitive to the fact that I don't want people to think that we're sitting there as an admin committee in secret meeting. They're public meetings.
Yeah, public
They're
meetings.
open.
I'd like to make a motion that, well, maybe not at the next one, but in the very near future, that we have a recording secretary taking minutes of the administrative committee meetings.
I think
I have a
minutes.
motion, Sinkowitz. Do I hear a second? I'll second it for the purpose of us
Open
discussing it further.
discussion.
Sure. Discussion?
I think before, discussion, I think before we go to a full recording secretary, perhaps we could ask Nathan to take some expanded minutes of
There you
our meeting Friday, come back with them, see Ed if that satisfies what you're looking for here, and otherwise, yeah, if we want a recording secretary, I don't object to it.
That's a start.
Okay.
That's a start. Actually, Nathan, couldn't you include that in your normal weekly summary? When we have an
How
administration
fast do you
meeting?
write?
Well, I'm happy to do this, but I also do a lot of speaking during the admin committee. I'm presenting a lot of the things that we're talking about, and so
I can understand.
it'll kind of be an after-the-fact recap, not so much while I'm speaking.
Well, and not being in one, maybe
No, I would like, we have a meeting Friday. If it's okay, I would like to go through that meeting. We're required to keep a record of proceedings, and that's what the motions are, that's what the votes are for anything that comes out. I would like to take a crack at expanding that, and then if that's not satisfactory, maybe for the next meeting.
Okay.
Real quick, and John always summarizes at the end of each agenda item. So we're all, well, you know how Mr. McGee does that. He summarizes
Yeah.
everything to make sure we're all in agreement and that we aren't missing something. And I think each agenda item to have a summary of the discussion with your wordage to, encapsulate everything we discussed.
Well, look at
versus
it, you
the whole
have a
minutes.
recording secretary for parks, for the lake board,
CBA,
and all
Right.
that other stuff,
Yeah.
and this committee carries a lot more weight than any of them. And there's no reason why the information that you guys get.
Right, I'm not
shouldn't-
disagreeing. I'm
shouldn't
just saying
be
to start with.
Given to us, but if Nathan wants to take a crack at it and see if it's, because like he says, he is a viable part of that.
Right, understood.
That unit there, that, he's got here's what I want to say.
Right.
Well,
I know.
And if it's not satisfactory, it won't hurt my feelings to move forward with an actual recording secretary. So that would be my preference, give it a try on Friday, and then I will, how would you like me to disseminate it? Email?
Yeah, let's disseminate them in
packets?
email form, and then that'll give us.
Just out of curiosity, what do we spend on having a recording? Would one of the girls in the office do it? Or we have to bring?
I think we would depending on the schedule, I think we'd probably end up bringing somebody in to do it, but.
They are backups in case our regular recording secretaries can't do it. They have not had to do a meeting since I've been here. We have an hourly rate that does increase if it goes into hour 2, 3, or 4. But it would not be a huge financial impact for one
Okay.
meeting a month. These meetings are usually an hour or
Quick.
2, maybe more. Fridays might be more.
Fridays could be long, but, yeah, I mean, I don't want anybody to think that we're sitting up there making decisions in a vacuum, and I think we're more likely to bore people than inform them, but let's take a crack at this, and then if we think we need more.
Just to clarify, my reasoning is not that you guys are doing something you're not supposed to do. It's just that I'm sure there's discussion that doesn't
wanna
get
get a sense
passed
of it,
on to
yeah.
us. That I might say, well, gee, why don't we do that? I mean, we were going to pave both sides of Glengarry Road until I said, why don't we put a path on the other side? And the light bulb went on. So it's just nice to know
Get more
how did we get to
more
where we're at?
context for why decisions were
There you go.
were made. Okay, I don't think we actually need a motion on that. We'll just give that a try, and then we'll see what we got. But we do have a motion on the floor. So, all in favor of the motion to go to a recording secretary, say aye. All opposed? Nay?
Nay.
Motion fails, so. But we can revisit that motion if we want to next month. Okay. That is admin committee.
10 minutes
Oh,
early.
sorry.
Yep, second call, I think.
Sorry, oh, wait. No, we do have, motion F2. Motion F2 is, I'm not sure we needed it as a formal motion, but we did want to make the council aware that we've asked Nathan to look into in all of these road endings. We've asked him to do additional research into the ZBA cases, some of the history around how those officially got there. So I don't think we need council action on this because, he's the administrator, he can consult, but we did want to make people aware of that.
On a napkin.
We're still 10 minutes early.
Okay, that does bring us to item G, second call to public, opportunity for citizens to address the council regarding any and all village business.
Most people.
I see Bob Malik just bursting up there, so.
Give him his mic, would you?
Are you taking requests tonight?
Bob Malik, 1620 Thurston. I do have a question. Isn't it you're allowed 5 minutes on the subject?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, I got about 45 minutes worth of stuff for you. How's that?
Let me rephrase myself. You're allowed 5 minutes, Bob, and the clock is ticking.
I have a few things. First of all, you just finished talking about the road ending. Have we done the road ending on Del Monte and Spring Lake Heights yet? Because the road ending always comes up with a problem with one of the neighbors. And
Del Monte and Spring Lake Heights, is that officially a road ending?
Yes,
or is
it
it
is
a
officially a
subdivision?
road ending. It's, we've had it surveyed, it's filed in the Spring Lake Heights folder upstairs in the file cabinet, second cabinet to the left, bottom drawer. And it's also been filed by me personally at Oakland County.
If I may interrupt for a moment, Bob, would our attorney please take a look at that and see if it's actually a road ending too? Thank you, Bob.
No, that's fine. That was one of my questions. I can eliminate that one.
I think we've looked at that a little bit.
I'd like to compliment the chief and Officer List on the escorts they gave our subdivision for their bike parade for the children this past holiday. It was fantastic. The kids loved it. They got some goodies from the chief and Officer List, and I'd just like to thank them both and as part of the community and the subdivision. We talked about the lake here earlier and Mallow Beach, the canal there. Well, I'd like to know, have we done anything with our second lake, the pond over on McCoy Road? That's been, in limbo now for over 2 years. I mean, are we going to do something, or?
I think the last decision we had was to let that pond lie.
Okay, then let me ask this question. We're putting all these chemicals in, and Jerry had a great comment about who knows what's going to happen later. Are we doing anything to fight the mosquito issue there that develops in that pond because we're not doing anything with it?
That's a good question, Bob.
Because in Oakland County, I get the emails talking about West Nile and all the other things. I think we owe it to the community, especially the people that live right near there, to address it in some manner. That one?
We'll send that towards the administrator to see if we need a mosquito evaluation down there.
Okay.
We do, and we do get some West Nile funding.
We need somebody to sacrifice themselves, go down there in a t-shirt.
No bugs.
And tell us, no bugs or bugs.
I don't think we need that, but it is a legit question. And-
Well, again, if we're not going to do anything with it, we should address the potential health problem.
Yep.
Another question I have, I don't know if it was our DPW or the county that trimmed all the excess growth along Benstein Road at the side of the lake.
I believe it was the county. Oh, we've lost the
Was it the county?
Yeah, it was the county.
Okay, well, if it was our people, I would say thank you, but thank you for the county. But now they also just opened up this ugly piece of wood that stands all the way down from one end to the other. Are we addressing that in any way to fix anything? because it looks awful. If you look at the boards that are turning and twisting and on top rails, you know, this represents our community, Wolverine Lake, the great wall of Wolverine there. That's something I would like to have somebody look into if it's possible. I'm sorry.
Well, Nathan took a note, so I'm sure he'll have DPW take a look at it.
Another one, okay, we had the representative here who told us that, you know, our taxes are going up because we're getting an extra $600 million that they're gonna divide up and everything else. So does that mean that we'll now be able to get relief on our trash pickup since we're gonna have extra money for our roads here that we're working on in the community?
Unfortunately, Bob, our projections on the road funding included the small amount of money we will get additionally from the state.
Okay, well, I'm just asking, he's the one that stood here, and I would have liked to address that, you know, when he was here, but unfortunately, his second call doesn't come till all the kids are asleep. Oh, and another thing I have, we talked about the revamping of Clara Miller Park, okay? And as a resident and active person in Spring Lake Heights subdivision, which backs up on the south side of the park, I hate to see anything happen to that park that it's going to get extended north and south. In other words, you've got the subdivision of Apple Orchard, and then you've got our subdivision on the south, which the neighbors on both sides nobody's ever complained about excess noise and all this other stuff. I mean, it's a nice park in our community, but I think if we spread it out, and I don't know what their plan is or what they're going to ask for, but if you spread it to the north and to the south, you're then going to be encroaching on the people's privacy, okay? And I just don't think that would be fair. It's something that should be addressed when this thing is put together. You know, or if that's the case, let's just put in a community pool and charge money and reduce our trash pickup. And last but not least, that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Mallon. Full. A full but useful list. Okay, anybody else second call? Seeing none, I will close the second call to the public. We'll move on to item 8, recommendations from Police Chief Ellsworth. This is basically a renewal of our mutual aid, right?
Yeah, this actually, this.
Oh, here comes the mic.
This is actually kind of a rehash, and I'm sure Jennifer can go over this with you if you'd like to. It's a resolution to participate in the Oakland County Law Enforcement Mutual Aid Agreement. All the chiefs in Oakland County have this. If there was an emergency, something came up where they needed more bodies, more people, more equipment that we had, we could help them, they can help us. It's a legal document that basically addresses liability issues and things of that nature. It's something that was done back in, I believe, 1978 was the last one, and we felt, since those guys have probably been long retired, we felt it was probably a good idea to do an updated version. Our attorney's reviewed it. I believe she's reviewed it for other communities also.
This is something the county's been working on for a while, and it's just the county put the contract together and working with the chiefs and the different police departments. It was a collaborative effort, so I've reviewed it several times.
Reviewed it, you're satisfied?
Looks good.
All right.
We're
Chief
not
is
changing it
satisfied.
anyways.
It helps us a lot more than it would ever draw from us.
I think it would be very difficult for
Yeah,
us to
we're not
renegotiate
changing
this.
We need a motion?
I think we need a motion to approve.
as presented.
Second. Yep. Motion Stack, second Duff. Further discussion? Chief Ellsworth, anything you want to add there?
Nope, I think it's good. Thank you.
All right. Mutual aid is a great benefit to all of us. So, seeing no further discussion, roll call vote.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Maggie.
Yes.
Huff. Staff.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Item I2, landscape trailer purchase from USA Trailer Sales, $2,999 from budgeted funds. We talked about this a little bit at the budget session. Yeah.
Yes, we did, Mr. President. Basically, I'm asking for a list of budgeted funds to purchase a new landscape trailer. Our current landscape trailer was purchased at least 15 years ago, It was bought to maintain basically two 24-inch walk-behind mowers. Since then, DPW has upgraded our maintenance equipment into two 56-inch riding mowers, which we can't get both of those mowers on that trailer at this time. The current trailer that we're looking at purchasing would facilitate both riding mowers and our 48-inch walk-behind with a side ramp to where we can get the 48-inch off on the side ramp. I think this would be the very efficient use of the equipment. We still will be able to regain funds from our current trailer, which is in decent shape, through either a online or a silent bid.
All right. Let me get a motion and then we'll go to discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to purchase the trailer from USA Trailer Sales for $2,999.
Second that motion.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Nagy. Further discussion.
Andy, is this something that you're gonna keep inside so nobody walks off with it? That's an awful nice trailer.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you take good care of your equipment. I don't wanna make sure nobody, they walked away with Billy Sims Barbecue down in Southfield, so we don't want them taking the trailer.
That's a shame
That's
for
an
Billy.
exceptionally good price, Andy.
Yes, it is.
I think so. The other price that we had was over $1,000 more,
Yeah.
so we're pretty proud of the price. And as I said, we've got a great asset that we can regain budgeted funds to put back towards the
job.
allocated.
Sounds good.
Further discussion? Roll call vote? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Item J, resolution exempting the village from Act 152 of 2011 requirements. This, I believe, is a slight variety of the previous resolution exemption we've done, which was a little bit more tending to the shared, the revenue sharing. This one is through the road funding. Mike, anything to add or explain here without doing it in full?
No, Mr. President, not really. This was originally a requirement for us to get the EVIT funds. We have to do a performance dashboard, all kinds of hoops and stuff that I went through to be able to do that. That requirement was dropped. Somehow, some way, it was picked up so that it was a prerequisite for us to get gas and weight tax distribution.
Okay.
We approved it last year. It was under the gas and weight tax thing for the first time, and now it's apparently going to continue.
All right, so do I hear a motion for the, do I hear a motion to waive the requirements as presented? Motion Duff, second Nagy. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, item K, set topics for the July 27th work session. I am currently unaware of any topics for the July 27th work session.
Motion
Motion we
to.
don't not have a July work session.
It was like a chorus. I hear motion Nagy, second Stack to cancel the July work session. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Addressed lake condition.
Another 5 minutes. Another 5 minutes.
Pending business, we have none tonight. Update from the chief.
Well, obviously, June was a very good and busy month. We had a lot of preparations. I'm going to get yelled at. You have a microphone down there?
As soon as I started talking, I knew I was going to get yelled at. Obviously, it was a very busy month. Preparations for Tiki Night, and I know Tiki Night is technically in July, however, I wanted to give you a quick update. There were no, we feel it was a great success. There was no major incidents for Tiki Night. We had one arrest, towed 2 vehicles. The arrest was actually, had nothing to do with Tiki Night. It happened to be a domestic situation earlier in the day. I do want to thank the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, the Wall Lake Police Department, the Wixom Police Department, as well as the DNR Law Enforcement, and the Commerce Township Fire Department. They all provided us manpower as well as vehicles and equipment to help us get through that night. I want to thank the DPW guys They outfitted the Gator with some very nice lights, and they did it rather quickly for us, and we appreciate that. It really turned out nice. We utilized all of our patrol cars, our police bike, the Gator. We had at least 2 or 3 people walking at all times throughout the neighborhoods, and it really went well. I was very pleased. Obviously, going into it, we're always nervous about what's going to happen next, but it was a really good night. Everybody did well, and I'm very pleased with the guys. Just a quick note, Officer Morosco just let me know that there's a funeral plan for next week, next Tuesday in Redford for one of the officers killed in Dallas. He was from up here, and we will be sending representatives to the funeral on behalf of the Village of Wolverine Lake. So that and all the other exciting things that have been going on across the country, we're kind of all on our toes, and we're thankful we live in the community, or we work in a community we live in. So thanks.
Thank you. Questions for the chief?
Oh, thank you very much. I also wanted to, you could have done that, Mike, but thanks. The former chief, Mr. Jim Davis, Chief Davis passed away last week. And he had a little bit of a illness, lengthy illness for the last few years, but I should let everybody know that he'd been here for a fairly significant amount of time, I believe. And so I'm sure there's still folks out here that remember him. I know Mr. Sinkowitz probably remembers him well. So
Yeah.
You probably hired him.
A long time ago.
All right. But thank you, and Mr. Condick, for reminding me of that. That's it.
All right. Update from the treasurer.
D-Day for the transfer of our email is July 22nd.
D-Day.
I've never been through this before. I don't think it's going to be very problematic. It's going to be very abrupt, however. What I'd recommend to council is that, A, you ditch anything extraneous sometime over the next week. The less that's moved over, the better. And B, if you have files, if you have things that are attachments, whether they be PDFs, things of that nature, maybe forward it to your own personal email while we go through this transition. I'd hate like heck for anything to be lost. At least this way you'll have it recaptured. What we do basically is there's like a handoff point. The baton is passed at a specific point during the day, and as the word goes out to the internet, we populate the internet with our new address, and things point to the different IP address for the outfit that's hosting the email, and I'm told it should be easy, and I hope it will be.
I wouldn't worry, Mike. As somebody who works in IT a lot, these migrations always go smoothly.
Mike, the email address will remain
Yes,
as
you
they
still
are
have the
now.
domain name. Your names will not change. We'll be assigning new, different passwords. I think the outfit that we're going with requires much more robust passwords than the name of your dog or something.
Not four,
But we'll come up
four,
with
four.
that.
I think the advice to pare down what you've got in there and save anything that's really vital is extremely good advice. July 22nd?
Yep.
That's Friday.
4 p.m.
I was thinking that.
So, better do it tomorrow.
Given the national controversy about having personal servers, having governmental information, should we feel comfortable to transfer these things? And I'm just kidding, of course.
That will be
What's your
fine.
intent?
And what's our intent?
Mr.
Yes,
President,
holy crap.
you don't have to worry about me at all.
Mr. Sinkowitz has found an ironclad way to stay safe.
Turn it on.
Don't turn it on.
Okay, update from the administrator.
Just wanted to thank the chief and the police department. This was my first Tiki night, obviously. It lived up to the hype, and it was great to see it all unfold. Very thankful for the long days our officers put in. It's a fun event for residents and visitors, but it's a challenging event for the chief and his team, so it was great to see that. I was on Wolverine Drive, and there was a car running that just decided to stop and block the road. And I thought to myself, oh man, we're going to need an officer. And literally, as I was thinking that, one of our officers walked right by my car. So they were on it. And it worked out really well. So thank you for that. And just want to reiterate Sharon's event next Friday. It's open to the public. It's open to anybody who'd like to attend. Invitations are back on the glass table there by the Citizen of the Year sign. Love to see a good crowd here to welcome her back and say congratulations. Thank you.
All right, brings us to council comments. We'll start down here.
Well, Tiki night went fabulous, and the police did a great job. I mean, Laguna, you guys have that down to a science, bringing them in and getting them out now. I mean, I can't believe the traffic that they move out of there in such a short period of time, in a half an hour. It's a ghost town, you know, so it's just, and it gets better every year. You guys did a great job. Thank you.
I hope everybody stays safe and cool. It's been quite warm the last few days. You know, everybody's sort of sweating.
I see our monitor is up, which is great. We're making progress.
Yeah.
And hopefully by next council meeting, we'll have it up so we can display things to the people in the audience and at home. I think, and we can get rid of all these cables on the floor. And yeah, that's great. I appreciate
I
that.
think we should have Nagy monitor.
Nagy monitor. Thanks, Mike.
Get your little plaque up there.
No, and one other thing, just I'm glad for Sharon that we're going to do that for Sharon, Steve Cottrell,
Cliff Cottrell.
Cottrell, sorry about
Cliff,
that.
Steve.
Have Lynn here tonight as Citizen of the Year. I think that's a great honor for both ladies.
All right. Scott.
We'll have a great month coming up. It was a tough one on the national scene, but thank goodness that we live in a good community here,
Yes.
so we can move forward.
It was a great tiki night. Enjoyed it. And glad everybody was safe.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody can start using the link like they'd like to now. And also, I was here when Sharon was hired, and I was here when she left, and I could tell you stories that would keep us here till midnight about things she did up and beyond the call of duty. So she's definitely somebody that, whether she's a resident or not, needs to be on that plaque. Thank you.
A couple items. I do want to thank Representative Kesto for coming down tonight and taking some questions from the public. Tiki night, I agree with everybody. It was great. We had our usual fairly small party, but we always get a few new ones in. And the most amazing thing is, like, everybody who hasn't seen that fireworks display before, they're in awe because they can't believe how really good it is. They just don't expect it to be that good. And it's a real credit to all the work that everybody on our fireworks committee does now. Everybody does to make it happen. I mean, that doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It's really great. I say it most years, but I think this was the best ever. It was just spectacular. I also was able to take a few days of quiet staycation after that, a couple days of vacation, and really just kind of enjoy the community and the lake and the neighborhood. And it was, for me, it was just a great reminder. I've spent so much of the last few years running around to different places or sitting at work all day and all night that it's a really great community, and it's really a pleasure to live here. And the last thing I wanted to mention in terms of living here, our neighbors, a couple houses removed, Tom and Joanne Sullivan, are moving out of their house. They will be retaining a residence in the village. They're moving up to the new apartments.
Mm-hmm.
But long-term residents, and Joanne was the one who recruited me into village in a lot of ways. She said, "Well, you know, John, you're interested in water stuff. Come on down to a water board meeting." So the amount of stuff that Tom has done a lot, and the amount of stuff that Joanne has done over the years is just astounding, and really has had a great impact on this village. So I want to say thank you to them for everything. They're not going away completely, but they will no longer be full-time lakeside residents next to me. So and that's it. I would
Motion
take a
to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Motion Sikowitz, second Nedrow. Further discussion?
Aye.
Good job. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Aye.
Jerry.